That was fairly painless. They say a voyage of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. Maybe that's a trip. Well, it didn't matter. And a Voyager with 28,645 miles, well, it won't start at all. But we kind of know why it doesn't run, and because it doesn't have carbs right now. And I'm going to go over this here with you briefly in the intro. This is kind of a long, sad story that I'm going to really give you the Reader's Digest version on in regards to this 1986 Kawasaki Voyager 1200. So let's get right to it. All right, so here we go. Come on, baby, you can do it. It would appear we need some bateria. To get at the battery, we have to remove what Kawasaki calls the dummy tank cover, so they obviously knew who was going to be working on this. We'll go ahead and get this thing out of here. Just kidding. Yeah, she don't want to fire at all. Boy, she did not want to run. Well, it's something. At least the oil light went out. Wow. This is owned by a customer and a friend of mine that lives south of me, and he bought this from across the state somewhere on the east coast of the state from he said it was a young guy who had picked it up from a yard sale. Apparently the original owner must have passed. It had been sitting for at least 10 years. So what apparently the young man did was rebuilt the carbs, and these look like new carb holders. I have the carbs over there. That's for another time. And got it running and then decided to sell it. And my customer bought it, and the guy wanted way too much money for it, so he got it for a pretty good price, and he cut it way down. He was ready to walk away, in fact, and the kid said, okay, I'll take it. So he took it, had a title, and so it came home with him. So I got this actually quite a while ago. I've been working on this periodically, and then it really came to a stop because, you know, being this is a liquid-cooled engine, the cooling system puked out like brown diarrhea liquid, and there was no coolant. I couldn't even smell any coolant. It's all water. So I figured, and there is some evidence of this too, I figured that most of the cooling system was rotted out. And if that's the case, we got to shotgun all the cooling system. And if that's the case, we should be getting, you know, the parts that fit, because a lot of these are molded metal and rubber hoses. And in that case, I checked online, they're not available, or at least a lot of them are not available. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's a deal breaker, because we can find other hoses that match certain curves and bends, like auto parts, you know, 5/8 heater hose. That's a lot of work and a lot of hours. He didn't want to spend that kind of money on it. So we pretty much pushed it over to the side, and he said, you know what, I think I'm going to scrap it or sell it to a scrapper or something like that. Really got thinking about it after a while, and I called him and I said, I want another shot at it. Maybe if the inside of the engine is not bad as far as water jackets go, and I can't tell until we do some disassembly and pull off some of the things that are connected, you know, cooling system related directly to the motor, and look up in there, I can't tell that for sure. Let's at least get to that point and then make a decision on it. I just have a gut feeling that the inside of the engine is going to be okay. The radiator has been replaced by the kid, I'm assuming it's a kid, a young man, he said, that he bought it from. Apparently the radiator must have been rotted out. So the radiator should be good. It overheated on my customer because he rode it around, and apparently the cooling fan worked and then didn't work. But he said it didn't get that hot. It just boiled out of the overflow tank, which I'll show you here momentarily. And so that's when he stopped riding and called me. So that's the Reader's Digest version of this. There's a little bit more, but I think it's better just to get you caught up as we go through it. Because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and disassemble it. Again, you know, take some of the body work off and stuff off camera to get to the point where I was at when I initially stopped. I'm going to show you what we found in there, and then we're going to go further, all right? And that's where essentially Some of the older footage is going to come in that I already shot on this that I'll interject probably as B-roll, and then you'll have regular normal live footage on the rest of the project here. So with that, you're caught up. Let's go ahead and get to it. This is about where I got last time, almost. The carb's out. These look like new carb holders. And the carbs are over there. Discuss that at a later time. Those are KN CVKs. I've already gone through them. I had to split the rack and I machined a new fuel tee for it. I didn't film any of that. You've seen enough of that crap. But anyway, we'll get to that later on. And you know, this ladder is not supposed to be here, but I got to put the Christmas crap back upstairs here pretty soon. So gee, I hope the wife doesn't watch this video. In this configuration, what you have is you have two air boxes. You have an upper air box and a lower air box. This is the lower air box. The lower air box connects to the upper air box. I guess that would be called ductwork. Quack, quack. So it would go in basically like this. And these four ducts, they go into the back of the carbs. So these are about as petrified as you can find, and they need to be replaced. The air box needs to be replaced because of that, and because it's got a busted tab right there. So it needs one of those over here. So I looked online. I did find on eBay an air box. Did have the ducts on it. I have to assume those are petrified too, so I need to get new ducts. So when you combine the air box with the new ducts, you're probably looking at about 250 bucks. Well, maybe 200 bucks, but anyway, it's expensive. And like I said, I did find one, and I ordered it, but I ended up canceling that order because that's when we came up with the idea that we're just not gonna do any more on this because it's not worth it. But we're not gonna go this route. Customer said, why couldn't we put pods on it? And I said, that's a damn good idea. We could technically eliminate this upper air box altogether. The only caveat to that is that the brain box is mounted to that, but we could come up with something different for that. You know, just build something or make something, or just leave the upper air box in and have it not do nothing. You know, pop these out completely, those lower ducts, so they don't stick down and get in the way. Just leave it there. Who cares, right? Or we can just take it out altogether, haven't decided yet. Battery goes up in here, which I have out and up on a shelf. So there's your radiator fill. We're going to get to all this here in a second. I need to pull this back out. And but I just want to show you that's essentially where we got before. Now I'm going to take these lowers off too. I forgot I had done that before. We need to pull these lowers off. They are separate from the uppers. That gives us clearance down toward the bottom of the radiator. Actually, most of the radiator as well. So let me do that, but I wanted to show you this in the air box down here because this is a real pain in the ass. Like I said, this is very expensive stuff to replace, and you would absolutely need to replace these ducts because on the back of those carbs over there, CVKs, they weren't even holding on. No way. These are petrified, like I said. Come back at the next stage. Okay, we're back at the same place. I've got the upper and lower fairings off. I forgot I had to do that. And so we can access the radiator, which is most definitely going to have to come out. So down here is your coolant sensor as far as the fan. It's a fan switch, not a coolant sensor. Down here is what turns the fan on and off. Over here, I noticed before, I don't know if I see it now or if it's on, maybe it's on the other side, I can't remember. There was a ground wire that was just hanging out in the wind. A ring connector, here it is, but there's a ring connector right there, and it's a green wire. So that's most definitely a ground. Now Honda likes to use the green for ground. Kawasaki usually uses that black with a white, but that is a ground. And it's probably a ground for the fan, so that's why the fan was intermittent, because the ground was intermittent. Because he said it initially did work when he took it for a test ride, and then the second test ride is when it boiled over. And I forgot to show you that before. The brown diarrhea of death is coming out of the overflow tank here. Went all over everything. We got to clean this up as well. Hopefully we can. But is it unsavable? Well, I don't think so at this point. I don't think it's unsavable, in other words. I think we can do something with it if the water jackets aren't rotted out. Now, the only way we're going to be able to tell that for sure, we can't even tell that for sure, is I want to get this manifold out that goes inside the block here. And this is the distribution manifold for, I'm not sure if it's the return or the supply for the head. I'm assuming that this is the supply because it's up top. So apparently, yeah, that makes more sense. The radiator, at the bottom of the radiator, gravity would want to help. So gravity comes out, gravity comes out. Gee, I don't know what's wrong with me today, I really don't. So gravity helps and comes out, and the fluid comes out down into the water pump, comes back out, goes into here. So these are in. circulates through, comes out the top and goes back in the top of the radiator. We'll look at the top here in a second. You're gonna love that. But I want to be able to look inside here and check these water jackets. Plus, it would be good practice to change these seals out. I have ordered a lot of this stuff. Some of it is available brand new from Partzilla. I just got a notification that about a third of the parts I ordered, which initially said that they were available, are unavailable. Let me go out to my truck and get my surprise look. So yeah, that's what we need to do next. We're gonna pull the radiator again, because that's, well, not again, it was originally put in by the young man who owned it, I guess. And the screws are all screwed up as far as the type of fasteners. Half of them are missing, so this really wasn't too hard to take apart. And so we're gonna get that, we ultimately want to get this out. I looked on the parts fish, there's 2 bolts that hold this thing in that go into the block. I'm assuming those are blind holes, because if they're not and they go into the block, then we're really screwed because they're gonna snap. I hope they don't snap, but we're gonna work at those. I wanna get this out so I can look in there and take a look, and if that water jacket in there looks good and clean and not all corroded, then we're gonna continue. But if it does look corroded, we're gonna end up having to stop, and this is gonna be probably not even on the channel. Let's go over here. Let me go to the other side. We'll take a look at the top side here where the thermostat housing is. This is the first thing I saw, which kind of put the brakes on everything. You see that thermostat housing got a big hole in it. Right next to, I don't know if I even have to point that out to you. It's right next to that hose clamp, right there. You see that little hole? That goes directly down through into that housing. That's not supposed to be there. The little white is a little bit of corrosion that's come since I took this apart and then put it away. I don't know what that is. Stalactites or something? Who the hell knows? So this needs to come out too. Now I have ordered one of these from eBay. I took a shot and it was pretty cheap and it looked good. Comes with this part and that part. And I can get this seal in here, O-ring or whatever type of seal it is, from Partzilla. I've ordered that. I can get this housing. This is the side where the thermostat is. So the thermostat's here, and this is the main housing. Right there, there's an O-ring in there. I can get that, so I've ordered that. So I've ordered everything I can order. These hoses look like they date back to when the dinosaurs were roaming the earth, so we may have to replace some of them. Most of them are not available. And the metal ones into the water pump, they're definitely not available. He has been out like 4 times already. Now, either he's got diarrhea or he's just being a pain in the butt. I think it's the latter, not the former. See, I had the door closed today because there's a storm coming. And if I don't have the door closed, literally every leaf in the yard will be in this garage. So I have to keep it closed when it's windy. But he's used to just walking in and out. You've seen him on videos doing his own thing. So I got the man door open. Maybe he'll be satisfied with that. So anyway, back to what we were talking about. This is going to get replaced, hopefully, if the rest of the system is not completely trashed. And I just have a feeling that it's not. I can't explain it. I have a feeling the block's okay. The water pump may not be, but we can solve that. This would be insolvable, okay, without a different motor. Insolvable, gee whiz, unsolvable. This grammar thing is really getting to be a pain in the butt. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do next, is pull the radiator and start getting this part once we look in there, because we gotta do that first. So I'm gonna I'm not gonna set you up for that. What's the point? I don't even know how to get the radiator out. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get the radiator out, and I'll tell you about it afterwards. All right, so this is how this works. I figured it out, and I didn't have to look at the cheat sheet in the service manual. So what happens is, from the water pump comes up to this manifold, right there, and goes through the block. And it goes through the block and then comes back out through these guys right here. This is the one for the 2 right cylinders, one for the 2 left cylinders. Then it goes into this manifold, which distributes it into one basic pathway into the thermostat housing. Now the thermostat housing has 2 outlets. It has a bypass over here. You can tell from that sideways writing I just made. I'll show you that bypass where it terminates here in a second. And also the other pathway is on the back side of here, goes out into the top of the radiator, okay? It wouldn't make any sense to feed the water pump from the top of the radiator. It would make sense to feed it from the bottom of the radiator, you know? Got that head pressure, and the fact that it's more at a level with the bottom output of the radiator going directly down to the left side here where the inlet to the water pump is. So that makes the most sense. So the reason why I'm bringing this up right now is we're going to pop this bypass hose off. we're going to take this thermostat housing out of the loop completely. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get this completely out of the way and then take the radiator out. But before we take this manifold off, this one here, since that will be open at the bottom, we're going to flush the block just with water from a pitcher into these guys right here. There shouldn't be any reason why you couldn't do that. Here's your water. It would be essentially the water outlets in this case, I believe, but in this case we're going to back flush it basically. Put water down in through here. It'll come through the water jackets, come through this manifold and out into a pan or a pail or something. That way we can clean that out right now and then see what that looks like. Because you probably saw from just a little here. This is I already drained this, but that's what came out, you know, with taking the drain back out. So this is the crap that's inside there. So, you know, the rusty water is only going to come from a ferrous component. It's not going to come from aluminum. It'll corrode the aluminum, but it's not going to be a ferrous red, you know, looking slop diarrhea like that. So this is, parts of this is steel. Those lines that go down into the water pump are steel, I think. They're definitely hard. They're not soft lines. I wish I was hard. This is corroded aluminum, so this steel and that steel may be contributing to that red goo of death that's coming out of it, and maybe also the water pump impeller. I don't know yet. We're going to get to that. Again, I want to pull this out, and before we take that manifold out, just back flush and see what comes out. So let me go ahead and do that, but that's just what I wanted to kind of show you was that's the pathway, the way that this thing works. Oh, I almost forgot, the bypass comes back down to the bottom of the radiator. Where it comes to, we got to get that off, but not until we pull the radiator, which is going to be shortly. Working on this bike is making me reevaluate life choices. But I do have this hose off, that manifold there, and it's just pointed down into this pan. And so we're going to run some water down. I got just some tap water. It's high quality H2O though, so we're just going to run it down through one of the upper hoses that I was showing you before, and I want to see what comes out. Well, that's not bad. Pretty damn clear. Makes me want to go pee. Yeah, the brown that's in the pan is already there from, you know, when this thing took a shit earlier. A little diarrhea poop. Oh, stop running underneath there. That's the right one. I'm going to do the left one now. Or is that the breather? Just kidding. Well, you know, look at that. That is not bad. There's no, like, rust or nothing in there coming out of that. That's clear. So that's going right through the water jacket right now. Going around the cylinders and into that pan. I may not pull this manifold at all. But then again, it's probably all full of rust inside of it and it just hasn't broke loose yet. But that is awfully clean water coming out of there. It may not be worth it. I was thinking it'd be a whole lot of like brown sludge coming out. It may not be worth doing that with that kind of water coming out of there. I just wish there was some way I could scope it. I guess I could run the bore. You know I could do? Yeah, you know, let's do that. We'll take this hose off because it's just slipped on anyway. It's a slip-on. And then we'll stick the borescope just up into this area here and see what the inside of that tube looks like. That'll give us pretty much a good idea, because here's the problem with this whole thing. To get this out, you got to take that oil line off, bypass line, comes down from the crankcase up to this. That's probably your top, that's your top end oiling right there, the banjos. That's got to come out because it's bolted to the cross, that manifold pipe there. And so then I have to redo these banjos, which is not a big deal. I'll just put this in Vaporust and clean it. You know, let's just take a look up inside this with the borescope and see what it looks like. You know, see what this pipe looks like. If that pipe is like clean, like pristine clean, we are definitely not going to pull this off. It's not leaking now. Maybe we clean it off and throw some paint on it, you know, from the outside here. Because I think we're going to have to pull the exhaust, because I know we're going to have to pull at least the left side of the exhaust, because I cannot get at the bolts that hold those pipes. That's this one here. And I'm sorry I'm cockeyed here, but you know, it's got cock in it, I'm doing it. This one here and this one there go straight around, and you can't get at the bolts that hold them to the water pump. It's impossible. I tried everything. So, you know, besides explosives. So basically that's what we're going to do, but that is very encouraging. So let's pull out the dangly bit and see what it looks like. I kind of already know the answer because I shoved my finger up into that discharge side of the pipe, you know, the fitting. And it came out looking like I did a prostate exam on a Tin Man. Oh yeah. far from pristine, but it's not terrible either. It's just really some surface rust, but I would want to get that out of there because that's going to break loose and, you know, go at the in the radiator, which is pretty brown as well, but I can flush that out being it's, you know, off the bike. Yeah, we're going to pull this, so this is just getting deeper and deeper, unfortunately, but it's not unsavable. It's not terrible. I mean, you got a lot of fresh metal right there, so it's just mostly surface crud that I would want to get out of there. I figured that much, but, you know, might as well check for sure. Now that exhaust is well designed. That's actually very easy to take off. Both pipes in the back are connected together. They slide right out the back. In fact, the bolts that hold the clamps that hold them to the headers were missing. So somebody's had these off. We'll naturally replace those. And then the headers are held down by these half clamps, and not like the full ones that go around, which are a pain in the ass. Let me show them to you here. They're pretty cool. I got them in the bag here, but you can see. That's pretty neat. What does that say? Yeah, okay. I know what they are. That's really cool. The nuts came off, no problem. I used some penetrating oil and penetrated its heart. So I forgot to show this to you. This is the thermostat housing. Okay, so this goes on like this. This is the bypass side that goes down to the other part of the radiator. This goes into the radiator upper. This is essentially the upper radiator hose right here, and this goes down into the block. And this guy's the filler neck. Okay, so that comes down from the filler. The big old hole right there, which doesn't look good. And we'll take this apart at a later time because I need to put a thermostat in. I think it's pretty clear that you can, I mean, I can't show you right now because I need a flashlight, but I looked down here with a flashlight and it looks like it was laying next to the Titanic. This is for the temperature gauge. Okay, it's a very simple system. You got a gauge temperature sender and you've got a fan switch, which is in the bottom of the radiator, which I already showed you. According to the wiring harness, the wiring diagram rather, that's battery hot all the time. So there's always battery hot coming to the switch. So it's essentially the switch is in series with the fan. So, and the fan is in series with it too. So it goes through the switch first, the switch closes, goes through, and then completes the circuit, which goes to ground. So that's how it turns the fan on. So that's pretty simple explanation of how that works, and pretty much 99% of them work that way as well. What we're gonna do now, since I've got this out so easily, is go to the other side. Let's pull the metal pipes off the water pump, mark them appropriately. Of course, kind of hard to screw them up. And then we'll take this manifold gizmo out of here. And I got to go back in and order some more parts because I don't have the exhaust donuts. I assume, I don't know, this is tapered here. Do they use them? It may not even, I'm not sure what they use for them. Oh yeah, there's an exhaust donut up in here. We'll have to order these, probably the same damn things as all the other Kawasaki's of the same era, but I have a couple of sets of them, but I'll just order more. And I think we're going to order these guys, which are, and this is something I'm still debating, where those pipes go down into the head. It's kind of hard for you to see because cramming 6 pounds of shit in a 2-pound bag in here. So, well, there's a little flange down in here, and that's where, yeah, I can do it this way. Yeah, you can kind of see it now. You got the little flange, and it goes down into there. That's where that pipe goes into, the hose rather. Let's see, how does this work? That'd be the outlet. If the bottom manifold is the inlet, which I believe it is, this is where it comes out and goes up to the thermostat housing. Those are steel, so and you can see there's some rust on them. I'd really like to pull those and put them in a Vapo-Rest. Then I can look into the block on the top too. And then if that really looks good, then all we're gonna do is clean these metal parts up and get whatever hoses we can get OEM, and then try to fit the appropriate ones at like Auto Parts. They usually let me peruse the hose section to look for one that I can butcher that has the right bend in it at some point. Although nowadays they don't like doing that because people come in there and they screw up their inventory where the location is, but they know me, so. All right, so there's another hose that we're definitely gonna replace. I have to mark these. This is the lower radiator hose. That's why it was like this. This is your lower radiator hose. The one I showed you was the upper. And this guy is coming from the water pump. I'm gonna go inside and get that drawing. I'll show it to you real quick, but I'm gonna get that drawing and then I'm going to mark these hoses with the part number that is on the drawing. That way I can just look at the drawing and say, okay, that's that one. Anyway, let's take a look at the drawing I made. This is a picture from Partzilla's website that I enlarged, and then just printed it out. And I initially went through it in the green. That's the stuff they showed in stock. But unfortunately, you see some stuff in yellow that's been written over NA. That's changed. So they emailed me and said, whoops, that's not ultimately available. Not the whole thing, but the pipe. Like, for example, these O-rings are still available, which we'll get to here in a minute. So this is the part that we just pulled off, which comes from that manifold right there that we use to drain into this bucket. So let's take a look at that one as an example. Okay, that one is right there. This one is right there. Now these, the way Kawasaki does it is a reference number. And I have it just a line through it so I know that I already did that one. 39062C is what this one is. It's ultimately not available. That's the one that got changed. So this guy is 39062C. That's the number I'm going to write on these hoses. That way I can just reference the drawing instead of, you know, upper radiator hose left or whatever. That way I'll just use the drawing. This one down here I ordered, which would be the bottom one from the other one, going to the radiator. See, this is toward the front. So you can see that right there, front. So that's the one that faces forward. That one is not discontinued. This guy right here is that one. That one is going to be numbered sometimes they're very similar 5-digit and then different 4-digit after the 5. But that one is 39062B. So that's what I'll label that one as. Now, when you go to do this, you don't order it based on that number. You use it as a reference. Again, it's like a catalog number. So 39062B translates into 39062-1151, which is what I clicked on their website to order that. So that's what I end up getting. If that doesn't come back as unavailable, I should be getting that one at least, which is a really bad one. This one, we're going to have to find something at all parts or something, or we'll have to reuse it, one of the two. You know, that matches it up pretty good. It isn't in terrible shape, but that one is. That lower radiator hose is terrible. So that's how I do it in a complicated job like this. So you can see I ordered 1109. I didn't write down the companion 5+4 on this one. Didn't need to. 92055 is an O-ring behind a water pump. So these are the ones that we're going to go to the manifold, this 92055D. I don't think I wrote the +4 on that one. It doesn't really matter. We can get these O-rings. We can get the O-rings that go into the water pump right here and right there. They're the same number. And we can get a variety of other O-rings that we need. Like, for example, this guy up here, which is the O-ring that goes between this manifold and the thermostat housing. I have not ordered a thermostat for it. I wanted to see what it looked like first, so I will do that. And this one's coming too, which is a thermostat housing O-ring. So this is just one way to do it. When you have a complicated job where you know some stuff is not available, now what I can do is I can do an eBay search for something like this based on part number. Some of you might have a new old stock one of that laying around. So that's what I'll do next. Not now, because I'm still working, but maybe later, tomorrow, whatever. Okay, what did I say I was going to do? I said I was going to bring you over here, and we're going to get those pipes off the water pump, which are buried down inside there. This is the outer one that comes around toward the outside, so that is the lower radiator hose one. This one you can see right there. There's one on the inside of it, and that is the one that goes up to that manifold. This would be the suction side, I believe, and then the one inside is the pressure side. You said suck. Here's our outer hose, pipe rather. That would be the one to the radiator. She's got some poop in her, that's for sure. So this is the water pump side too, so it gives you an idea what's probably in the water pump. I'm not going to pull the water pump completely right now. I'm just going to pull the cover off it. I got to get some stuff out of the way first. They're not, you know, it's not like pitted or nothing. It's just sludge. If we can wash this out and still got to pull that manifold. Actually, let's do that next because that's really the critical part. And look at that manifold or look at those spots into the block. But I got to pull that oil line off. I hope it doesn't drain the oil all over the place, but I guess it will because that goes all the way down the pan. So lucky me, it looks like I got to drain the oil first. That sucks. Made this brass spacer that's going to be about the width of that banjo, and we'll put this on. We'll only lose little oil, and essentially that'll seal that off. It'll deadhead that banjo bolt down there. It's 12 mil, so I just made it out of some leftover brassy ass that I had laying around, so it's no big deal. Pretty easy stuff. Ugh. Oh, she's tight. All three banjos are the same size. Looked them up on the Parts Fish. 12 mil. I don't even really know how much is going to come out, but I'm sure it's going to come out. There shouldn't be any reason why it would be limited for one-way flow because it has to flow this way anyway. Yeah, she's not coming out that bad, but I don't want it drizzling all over the place. Oil looks great, actually. I do this on brakes, on brake banjos all the time. I have a half dozen or so of them made up out of aluminium. And you can do the same thing with the banjos. There you go. Might drip a little bit. Who doesn't nowadays? Oh, yeah, that's good. No problemo. What we're going to do at that point is just, we are going to look at it, and then I'm going to do a summary after I clean up, and then we'll call this part one. I got this side moving. It's got a nice surface on that bracket that's welded or brazed to it. Get a purchase on it and start doing a little bit of this. I don't want to use heat because this is all kind of soldered together. So do that and you might blow it apart. So I'm just working at it. Work it. Oh, there it goes. Put a little tension on it and tappy tap tap. All right, we got her, and that thing is cruddy in there big time. She is cruddy, big time cruddy. Definitely needed to do this for preventing future issues, I think, plus for the inspection reason that I mentioned before. Whoops. Oh, wow. Oh, boy, this absolutely needed to get done. Crap up in there. It's blocked. Oh, boy. I was hoping I would not see something like that. Really, this is pretty bad. I almost said, shit, we're gonna have to leave this, but I'm glad I didn't give up, because wow. Let's take a look in the block. That's not so good. Not so good. Actually, there's the one in front of number one. It's just completely blocked up. No wonder the damn thing overheated. Not circulating any shit. So this is what we need to do. We need to repeat what we did. We're gonna make a hell of a mess, but we need to knock this crap out and then start flushing it again and see if we can get a better view inside there and see what the aluminium looks like. Figured we'd roast a turkey here while we were at it. These two I don't think are as bad, but boy, there's some chunks in there. Let me tell you what now. That would indicate probably that around the back side of that water jacket has probably got some shit, but it is flowing, so maybe it doesn't have that much yet. You know, I have to figure out if there's some sort of a, cleaner or something we can put in here. I forgot what they generally use on that. Not like Simple Green or anything, but I think I'm gonna have to roll it outside and use some pressure on the hose through those hoses inlets and just blow it out. Let it go. That might work, but today we can't do it. It's just too windy, and like I said, we got a big storm coming, so this will be it for that. Let's do the udder two. Let's keep doing it till the cows come home. Get it? It's actually not bad. These are the ones that were more stuck than the other two. That really doesn't look all that bad. Just a little rust. See, you can see the aluminum's cleaned up pretty good in there. This is pretty much what I think we're gonna do on this. I don't know, maybe there's a product at Auto Parts you can put in there, like cooling system flush for aluminum, safe on aluminum. Yeah, so, I think it's gonna clean up okay. I really got a gut feeling, after just flushing it with static water as far as no pressure or anything. I think if we put something in there and then hit it with pressure outside, blow it out, I think it might clean up pretty well. And these aluminum parts feel pretty good. They're not terribly pitted. I can clean those out with some wet or dry. I've seen them a lot worse. I mean, I can't be 100% sure. I'm gonna have to probably do that later to make sure, because that's critical. But it really looks like the aluminum's not that bad. And if that's the case, then our O-rings, which of course are right there, Mortsky screwdriver just wants to hang out today, which are right there, as I was saying before I was rudely interrupted by magnetism. We're gonna put new O-rings on it. We'll get this cleaned out. We'll put it in a Vapo Rust. This will clean up nice. But as far as the block goes, I think we can work with this. I really do. I think we're gonna be able to work with this and bring this cooling system back around, clean this thing up really well when we're getting pretty much toward the end. I'll take the overflow tank out, clean all that up. We'll clean all that rust crap off the side of it with soap and water. That'll come off, most of it hopefully. And since we got seals for them coming in, shouldn't be any problem. Do the same thing. We'll get those cleaned out. Actually, you know what? Wait a minute. Do we want to take a look at one of those now? We need to see the block from the top too. We can do that just by taking this hose off, and I can always shove the hose back on when we want to flush it again. Let me do that real quick. I'm going to pop this hose off. We'll stick the dangly bit down there. I want to see what that looks like at the top at least. Time for the dangly bit. Well, I would expect the steel part to be pretty corroded, which it is, but you know, down below that it really doesn't look that bad. That would be where the aluminum is in the block, so it's pretty much the same as what we see in that opening. Come on. There we go. Now we're looking right at the aluminum. So right there is the end of that fitting because it's a flange type. That's not terrible. I think we can clean this out. I really do. Hey, it might work. Now I gotta pee. There's one I just cleaned out at number 2, in front of number 2. That was the one that the manifold was hanging up on most, because there was a big ridge of shit in there, kind of like that, but this one isn't nearly as bad. This one was the worst. You see number 3, it's got a little still in there. I just cleaned it out with some silicone spray and a little wire wheel, typical the ones you use on a Dremel, but I put it in my drill and my regular DeWalt. And this is real nice. This is smooth, it's not pitted, so my main concern with doing that, you know, testing it, is the fact that if that's all pitted up, then the O-rings won't seal, but I don't see any really significant corrosion on any of these holes. So if that one cleaned up like that, we'll get the other ones to clean up the same, clean up some of this rust overspray, I guess you want to call it, flush it some more, and I think the block is going to work pretty well. I'm not worried about this at all actually right now, because we're getting this shit out of it, and we could always have a situation where the customer does some cooling flushes and cooling changes with everything all together after it runs for a while and probably finish it off. All right, folks, quick outro on this video. I mentioned the pods on the carbs before. We'll get to those in a separate video, because naturally we're going to have to do some tuning on them CVKs. So if you have any questions about that, wait for that video. This worked pretty well. I'm real happy with it so far. I think it's going to clean up. I really do. I don't think that those cooling jackets are all packed up with the same stuff we found at the edges there where the steel penetrates from these tubes and manifolds and stuff. I just think that's because it built up right there, because that's where the steel and the aluminum met. So it looks pretty good otherwise, and it's flowing water good, as you could see when we were flushing it. I'm not going to use any snake oil or anything like that inside the block, like any detergents or something. I just read about it online. I'm not going to do it. We're just going to keep flushing it with clean water. Then we're going to fill it up with the appropriate coolant, and then maybe the customer can do some cooling flushes in the future, have somebody down his way do them, or he can do them himself, which is not a big deal because you can drain and refill the coolant, no problem without doing any of this assembly like this. So if you want to see more on this bike, you know what you need to do. You need to stick around. Subscribe, like, share, ring the bell, the whole bit. You get notified when I put more crap like this up. And I guess that's it. As always, don't just repair, restore. We'll catch you on that next video.